guys can all find online. He said, Paul Devlin wrote, "The shocking and chilling thing about this case is the judge's comments. Quote, I'm also intrigued by the concept of a documentary. By its very nature, a documentary to me means that it's not for profit. You're doing it to educate." And I heard also that there was the term to educate and inform cannot be a for-profit enterprise. Yeah, it's outrageous. So Lee, can you continue the story? So so maybe you could talk about, and then Michael could follow up, on what basis did they decide or rule that this was a hobby? That turns out the IRS has 9 criteria that you need to meet.
Right. Well, they have not ruled that it's a hobby yet. Okay. The judge has not yet decided. I went to trial on it. I presented my case that this is a for-profit business. Here are all the ways in which I met the 9 criteria that we'll talk about, and the judge still has to rule on that. Now, she is a very competent woman and asked very intelligent questions throughout the trial. And she, at the end of, when you present your case, at the end of the case, from the bench, she asked this question and asked for more briefing from our attorneys, my attorneys, and from the IRS attorneys about that issue. That if the primary purpose of making a documentary, the primary purpose is to educate and expose, then the very nature of making a documentary could be classified as a hobby and not a business, because your primary purpose is not to make a profit. Now, I know my primary purpose was to make a profit. With 20,000 alumni, 450,000 host families, and 20 million audience around the world, I surely did and do believe that my film will make a profit. Now, when I do make a profit, I'm going to have to pay the IRS taxes, right? Yes, but they don't want to wait for that to happen. And so that was the chilling thing, that the judge had asked from the bench for additional briefing. I knew at that point my case was no longer an audit about me. And I mean, the IRS has a right to audit everything. That's why you do operate as a business. That's why you do act responsibly from the beginning. That's why you do keep separate books. You have to do that because it is a business and the IRS can audit you. And so I didn't like having to go through it, but that is what they do. What I was concerned about, though, was this bigger issue that my case then turned to became. And that's when I contacted the IDA and I said, I can't fight this one alone. And it could mean that all documentary filmmakers everywhere could be considered a hobby. And not just that, if there's a ruling on it, it could go back 7 years to every film that Jeffrey has made. They can look back into it and reevaluate those. So that's when I contacted IDA, and Michael Donaldson and the entire groups came up to the plate and helped and filed an amicus brief to really express, to answer the judge's question.